I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of going to going to the laboratory and dealing with chemicals and being exposed to such a very toxic environment. And and I really to be honest, guys, I didn't know what I was doing. I learned all this information at school, and half the stuff that I learned in school about chemistry, I didn't learn it and out in the real world, right, at the industry. And so I was getting yelled at by my boss, and I was just miserable coming home, and I was looking for different opportunities. I was looking for a sense of purpose, because I was just, I was letting life hit me. Yeah, I wasn't truly passionate what I was doing. I went to school, to get a degree, and I spent thousands upon thousands of dollars, something that I honestly, at the end of the day, I wasn't happy. And I felt like I did that just to, impress other people, right? To please other people. And, but so back in May of 2020, during the pandemic, I decided to leave that career as a chemist to become an entrepreneur, right? A businessman, whatever you call it. And I was just knocking on doors of opportunities, right? Because, I wanted to learn how to make an extra source of income, and, how to make money online and stuff like that. So I was looking into investing, but, I still had to get educated in this subject, right? So I was working for AT&T sales, going door to door. That was a really tough job, doing that for 3 months. Like, imagine going door to door to door, in this hot Texas weather in your suit, just like selling AT&T service, right? It was a tough job, but I learned a lot though. It was a great opportunity because I was able to learn a new skill set, right? How to build that communication skills and interactive skills with other people. So I did that, and I was doing insurance sales. I was selling. I was working for an energy company. So, and then I came across digital entrepreneurship. Investing into financial markets, which is truly something that I really love, and getting educated in this area, and also showing other people how to do the same, right? So, and working from home, right, with the job that I have now, which is truly a blessing, right? And really having multiple streams. So that's what really is all about. So, but it's not just about the monetary aspect of things, about the person I'm becoming throughout the process. And, at the time when I was like, lost and didn't know what I was doing after I left my chemistry job, I was just confused. I was misled. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I hit rock bottom. And I was depressed. For a long time. And I just didn't know which direction to take, because I was afraid to take that big leap of faith of starting a business, or dealing with people. Just putting myself out there, right? When it comes down to like dealing with customer service and building my social media. So, but then I started tapping into personal development, right? Learning about the mind, and just learning from other people's experiences, right? To really gain that inspiration. And honestly, guys, personal development changed my life when it came down to developing the skill set of communication, as well as also becoming a better version of myself, mentally, and also physically, and also spiritually, because ever since I started tapping into my spiritual side, it really opened up more doors for me, and just being a true student, right? But anyways, so personal development changed my life. And then, at the time also, I was going through it, with family, and, I still do some days, life hits you, family is always involved, when it comes down to like getting into your business, right? And just like wanting to know, like, trying to figure out like, hey, when it's time to pay the bills, it's time to pay the bills, right? And they're pressuring you, and they're like just really like just like bringing you down, because of what they don't support the vision that you have. And, there are some days where I'm like so frustrated because I wish I could provide more, but at the same time, I can only control so much. And especially being an older brother, right? I have two younger siblings, and it's just like I'm doing my best with what I have, right? And the fact that I left a really good job as a chemist, I was making good money. I can make a lot more, but it's not about that. It's about the vision that I have for me and my family, and for this community as well. Because I went for a long time. I went. I was working without getting paid for a very long time, and um, but of course, that's when I needed to get a job, right, to support my mom. And because my mom, I was raised by a single mother almost my entire life, and my dad wasn't always there financially supportive. And but I built that. I made a decision to build a close relationship with my dad, and bring peace. So, but yeah, long story short, I came up with this idea because of my brother. He's currently struggling with mental health, and also, there's a lot of people here that also struggle or are supportive about mental health. I'm a very I went to a mental breakdown and depression, in the past, and I know how hard it could be for the for certain individuals when it comes down to dealing with their profession and any area in their life. It all starts in the mind. It's all about mental health, and I want to be able to spread awareness in this subject, and that's why I collaborated with Stephanie. I'm so happy and grateful for her. To create this community with like-minded individuals that support mental health, and anybody that's struggling right now. My peace and healing go to you all. But we're here as a family, and because this is it's all about providing service for others, and expect nothing in return. Okay, and we have a special guest on the call that she doesn't have to do this. She doesn't have to do this, and I'm going to edify her in a little bit here. But Stephanie, you can go ahead and share your story. Take it away, sis.
Just some, fire emojis for Carlos, and, being appreciative that he sharing his story with us, and being able, hi, my puppies want to say hi. Being able to share that puts you in a vulnerable position. So I just want to thank you. And if all of you, I see some fire emojis coming up, but just giving him a warm thank you for sharing, because I know it's not easy to sometimes disclose that information. I am currently in a kind of like cold thing. I don't know what's going on, but I apologize if I sound raspy. I may not, but I definitely feel like I sound like a frog. So my name is Stephanie. Some of you may know me on here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm 27 years young. I am currently getting my master's in mental health counseling, similar to Amber. I know she just graduated. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. So I'm currently working at, thank you for those saying to feel better, sorry, ADD. I am currently working at Troza, which is a community for those that are struggling with substance abuse disorders here in North Carolina. And I help coach them and go through all their traumatic experiences that they've been through, and kind of help them with their relapse and prevention, so that they don't relapse when they go back into that real world, since they are staying in a residential facility. About my background and what kind of led me into going into mental health counseling. I was raised by a single mother and my grandmother. So I lived with both my mom and grandma. And I basically was always raised in a very, I don't want to say typical Hispanic, because every Hispanic culture is different, but very much overprotected and very, I'm the only child, so it was all focused in on me. I couldn't go out, I couldn't do anything, I barely could have friends, because my mom had done a lot of, not negative things, but she just was used to partying, clubbing, being with a lot of sexual partners, and she didn't want that for me. And in doing so generationally, right, it was, my grandmother was very lenient with my mom, and then my mom was like, okay, let me be the opposite and just be super overprotective with Stephanie, since clearly I felt that didn't help me. So parenting styles are just very authoritative and not healthy relationship styles. And my mom has borderline personality disorder, so also very difficult. Around like the age of 12, I became her primary caretaker, which is where I started to learn more about how I really like to help others. I am empathetic and patient, and I thought medical field was the way. So similar to Carlos, I went into school doing, biology, chemistries, all of those fun, overwhelming classes. And then the more I worked in the medical field, because I am also a medical assistant, I realized that's not what I want to do. It's not, the environment in the medical field now is just very disheartening. So I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And I really wanted to impact other people's lives in a more longer lasting way. And I personally, this is my opinion, but this is what I believe and is true to my core, that everything starts with the mind. If our mind is not healthy, it leads to stress, which can lead to blood pressure issues. Diabetes can even also be triggered by stress. Other health conditions can be triggered by stress. And how do you combat stress? You need to deal with the mind, right? So I realized I was a psych major in undergrad. I was like, okay, I just need to go back to my roots. I knew this all along. Stephanie, what took you so long? So here I am in my journey. And I'm just super excited because Amber's going to talk about such an important conversation and something that will actually help me myself in helping my clients as well. So I just really thank you, because the programs sometimes don't emphasize this enough. And I think it is such a beautiful and important topic to talk about and discuss. So I am excited to learn about what you have to share and use this with my clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing that. And yeah, absolutely. Like Amber, like, we met through Instagram. We met through Instagram. We follow like the same mental health page, and I saw her content, and it was truly amazing. It caught my attention, and so I reached out to her. It's like, yo, we should definitely collaborate, and I have a community, I would love for you to be a part of it. And without hesitation, it's like, yo, I'll be more than happy to, to be a part of it. And, the rest is history, and then we got on a call, me, her, and Steph, and we decided to make this call happen. So, Amber, thank you so much for everything that you do, outside this community, and at your job and your home and your family, just leading by example and making an impact in your community, especially in the Latino community, because I know how big this is for all Latinos, especially when it comes down to this subject. We were never taught this growing up, guys. I was never taught this information, and there's like information out there that you spend thousands upon thousands of dollars, but here, you get free access, and we're going to be listening from a professional, and recent graduate. So and she's going to be giving us a free therapy session here, free and free education. So I'm looking forward to this. And Amber, again, I'm truly happy and grateful for you. And you're such a selfless person. You lead by your heart, I can tell, and I know you're going to make a big impact. And I can't wait to learn from you. I have my notebook, my pen ready. I'm ready to take notes because I know it's gonna be a lot of value. Drop some fire emojis in the chat box if you guys are excited, because like the information she's about to go over is about breaking generational habits, right? Generational just bad programming, how we were raised, because how we speak, how we think, how we act, how we walk is because of our paradigm, because of through the habitual patterns of our generations. Okay, just think about that, guys. Think about that. And I noticed that from my own family members, right? If you guys can relate, drop a 111, because I noticed that, like, once you become aware of how other people think, how other people talk, how they behave, how they react towards certain situations, and you notice that you also react the same way, just like them, because of your environment, right? You become the product of your environment, right? So that's like something that when I learned about that concept, like, wow, my environment right now, this is an illusion. If you guys think about this, like where you're at right now, wherever you're at, your environment, like you can create your own environment, you can create your own economy, right? If you desire if you have a house in mind that you desire, if you have a car, right? Use your imagination to picture that, right? Use your imagination to already place yourself in that position, right? The person that you want to become, right? How do you feel? How do you act, right? As that desired person, and not just be the average, right, of where you are right now, because you're more than that, guys. You are more than that. Each and every single one of you guys have a true potential within you, right? You got to release that higher version of yourself, right, and express yourself, and just imagine yourself that you're happy, you're peaceful, and it's gonna elevate your vibration. And I know I went on a rant there, but Amber's gonna be covering this. So Amber, without further ado, take it away, sis.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope everyone's having a good day so far. I first want to start off by saying thank you to Carlos and Stephanie for allowing me to be in this space and just sharing with all of you a topic that I love and hold very dear to my heart. So thank you for that, both of you. Thank you to everyone else who's here actually taking the time out of their day to, just learn a little bit about generational cycles and what it means to be a cycle breaker, generational trauma, and generational curses. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. A little bit about myself. My name is Amber Castro. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I just graduated about a month ago from my master's degree, my master's program, and now I am a marriage and family therapist, and I went for a dual master's. So not only a marriage and family therapist, but also a professional clinical counselor here in sunny Los Angeles, California. So that's been awesome. Thank you. It's also been a struggle. So although I am pretty much done with like school, I still have my internship left until July. But it's been great because I've been getting to work with the Latinx community, Latino, Latinas out here in Los Angeles. And it's been a great experience. I do have experience in the last 3 years of working with community mental health. What that means is nonprofit organizations contracted through Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. So nonprofits, right? Don't make too much money, but you have lots of resources to give back to your community. So that's a little bit about myself. Everything kind of came full circle for me when I was younger, really wanting to get into like psychology, but back to when I was 18 years old, I always told myself I never wanted to go the clinical side because I thought, there's so much stigma behind it. And I forgive my 18-year-old self for thinking this way back then. But, coming full circle, I'm like, hey, I'm actually very thankful for this work and for this community because it's helped me grow a lot. And unfortunately, mental health services aren't, affordable for everyone. So that's why it's always good to educate ourselves. And that's why having this conversation today, I hope we can all take some information out of this today. So let's get started. First of all, I want to ask, does anyone here know what cycle breaking is, or have you ever heard the term cycle breaker or generational trauma? If you want to drop something down in the chat box, go ahead and do that. Let me know. Yes, we're getting 111. Awesome. Said heard it before, but don't know too much. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So basically, as a cycle breaker, what it means is to kind of break the cycles that have been passed down from the generations onto the generations. For example, if our grandparents didn't really know how to express their feelings, that was normalized and it was passed down onto our parents going ahead and passing down onto us, and us going and further passing that down onto our children. Along with that comes trauma, right? And it's not just like within one culture, because this is throughout many cultures. This goes to the Latinx community, the API community, it goes to Armenian culture, it goes to African-American community as well. So throughout many cultures, we've experienced different kinds of traumas. And even if it's not something cultural. Maybe you grew up seeing domestic violence in the household, or seeing, conversations that weren't brought up, or a lot of invalidating of feelings as a child. I did this poll yesterday on my Instagram where I asked, like, hey, what is something that you grew up listening to that you now know as an adult is not okay? And many people said, learning to not cry and express my feelings, right? And how that's been passed down, because we've come to learn that as we internalize a lot of those feelings and shut that down later on in our relationships, whether it's with friends, family, loved ones, or our partners, we go on to shut down the same way. So I'm really big on working on breaking generational cycles, because in the Latinx community, unfortunately, we have so much of that. And so I feel that it is my job to try to educate and really just have people give people a better sense of themselves. So I'm going to just talk about a few points that I have. In breaking generational cycles, like I said, it's basically the trauma or the unresolved problems that have been passed down from the generations and that have not been solved. One of the most important things that we work on when breaking generational cycles is learning about differentiating of the self. I'm sure no one here probably knows what that means, because I didn't know about that until, let's see, am I able to share a screen? I think I might be able to.
Let me make you host.
Yeah.
If you're not able to.
Let's see. All right, can everyone see my screen here? Just a thumbs up. All right, I'm gonna move everyone over to the right. So kind of just have some bullet points here, right? So basically the self, right? It's a building block as we are born. It's how individual family relationships happen during childhood, and how adolescents primarily determine how much self they develop, right? Quote unquote. Once establishing the level of self, it rarely ever changes. The structure pretty much stays the same. But however, long-term effort for change can go on to help you change your sense of self. Who here, you can drop it down in the chat, has ever experienced, having your parents tell you what they wanted you to do in life, what kind of sports they wanted you to do, or just kind of following their dreams of what they expected of you? Yes, I'm seeing that in the chat. No, I'm sharing screen, but yes. Yeah, so a lot of the times, unfortunately, we didn't grow up having a better sense of self because our parents kind of took over some of that. And so if our parents don't have a better sense of giving us autonomy, it would go on to further, have us follow in the same footsteps as our parents. So differentiation of self. When people are poorly differentiated, they usually really heavily depend on the acceptance or approval of others. And they're kind of quickly to adjust to what the other person might be telling them to think. So they're easily manipulated. They easily can, just change their mind. They look for somebody else to help them make decisions. A lot of the times in Latino culture, we go and call mom or dad when we need help making a decision. So who here, again, drop it down in the chat. Have you ever experienced having this sense of people pleasing and having to get someone else's approval? Let me see it. External validation. Yes. So much. Luisa said, my mom influenced a lot of my trajectory. Yes, same. Definitely. Yes. So unfortunately, when we do see that, the person goes on to be kind of just easily dysregulated. You have a lot of anxiety. You don't know how to regulate that anxiety. A lot of times you will shut down. I don't know if anyone, again, here has experienced that, but as myself being a cycle breaker, first gen Latina, born here in the United States, I felt that a lot and still feel that now to this day. Now, a person who's well differentiated or has a good sense of self, quote unquote, right? They recognize realistic dependence of others. So they know, okay, I'm actually being dependent of someone else. I'm realizing actually, like, I'm not making choices on my own. I'm needing someone else to kind of validate that. But these people can also stay calm. They can be clear-headed enough in the face of conflict, criticism, rejection. They know how to distinguish thinking where it's rooted from, and they know how to carefully assess the facts, right? Because who here is sometimes stuck in the negative thoughts and your brain's just going and ruminating? Yep, I'm gonna raise my hand because that's me. But we're working on that. It's a process, but yes, we are working on it. So a less differentiated self or a person grew up pretty much having to seek approval from others, seek validation from others, was pretty much shut down for, trying to speak up, for trying to break the homeostasis of the house, probably didn't have enough room or opportunity to share about their feelings, or, feelings were kind of looked down upon. Mental health is probably looked down upon in certain cultures as well. I know at least in the Latinx community, that's the case. And then we have the person who actually is differentiated. They know how to communicate. They know how to really express their feelings. They know how to set boundaries. Oh my gosh, boundaries is that big one. Who here struggles with boundaries? I'm going to raise my hand because I still go ahead and struggle with that too. Yes, we see Norma said me, Gia said me. Been called dramatic for feeling my feelings. Yeah, that's a lot of, people feeling uncomfortable because they don't know how to deal with your feelings. So it's a quick way to invalidate and make you into the victim, how they say, right? Absolutely me, says Chris. Boundaries, don't know her. Yeah, I feel that. So if we continue, it says everyone is subject to problems in their work and personal life. We're in this little section right here. Let's see. This little section right here. Less differentiated people and families have greater vulnerability of periods of heightened chronic anxiety. Again, who here grew up in a chaotic household? Yeah, probably. And sometimes when we find a partner who actually is more calming and kinder, it's out of the norm for us. And we're like, oh, I'm not used to this calmness and this whole talking feelings out. This isn't normal for me, right? And so we tend to push people away because we're used to the chaos. We normalize the chaos. So with differentiation, the more differentiated a person is, pretty much the better they are at having healthier interpersonal relationships, awareness of their emotions, versus a less differentiated person who will struggle in seeking validation from others and sometimes actively acting impulsively when they're feeling anxious. So who here feels that they're a differentiated person? Go ahead, drop it down in the box. Meaning I know how to talk about my feelings. I know how to, calm myself down. Drop it in the box if you feel that, yes, I do know. You can drop 111 if you like. So. Now, yes, okay. Okay, perfect. And who here, let's drop maybe 222. Who thinks here, you know what? This is the first time I'm hearing about this. I don't think I'm a differentiated person. And that's okay. I want everyone to know that's okay. A lot of the times we don't grow up knowing any of this information. I really learned about this maybe 2.5 years ago. So it's a learning process for all of us. Still working on it. Yes, Lisa. And that's okay. It's an ongoing process. Like I mentioned, I think I even did a post about this, might have been yesterday, how our cycles and our journeys of breaking cycles look different for everyone. Someone might be learning how to communicate for the first time versus another person. They might be learning how to set boundaries, right? And that's going to look different for everyone, especially in every journey and every stage. So differentiation of self. Any questions there? Kind of understands, basically saying, I know how to be in tune with my emotions. I know not to seek validation from others. I know how to calm some of that anxiety. What are some questions? You can also unmute yourself if you'd like to. In the chat, let's look. Very clear. Awesome. So we look into the next step that I really think is important when working on differentiation. A lot of times when I work with clients whose family has had a great impact on their life and who have had a lot of trauma in their life, I really work on having like a higher differentiation of self because they struggle to make decisions. I can ask a question, they're like, oh, it's up to you. And I'm trying to give them autonomy, give them a voice, right? And that's what differentiation is, being able to speak up, have that voice. A lot of times, unfortunately, we don't know how to have that voice. And we go into the next concept, multi-generational transmission process. Oof, it's a huge word. Pretty much describes how small differences in the levels of differentiation between parents and their offspring lead over many generations to marked differences in differentiation among the members of an extended family. Basically meaning if we make small changes in the way that we teach our children, they can go on to have greater changes with their children or the future generations. However, if we don't make the progress of changing that, greater problems become greater as we pass it down from generation to generation. Here's an example. If a parent was taught not to process emotions or were too overly dependent, right here, this little section, of their children, then they would pass those attributes onto their children, and then those children onto their children, and so on and so forth, especially when a parent has low differentiation of self. Who here knows of anyone who maybe had an overly dependent or enmeshed relationship with their parents, and their parents were just too dependent of them or dependent of yourselves? You can drop it down in the box. 1, 1, 1. You see this often as a teacher? Yes. Steph says my mom. Yes. Yes, so unfortunately, if we have a parent that really didn't have a higher sense of differentiation, and Luisa, you're raising your hand to ask a question, or you're just agreeing here?
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat, but I just wanted a little bit of a clarification on how the parent can be dependent on the children, like what that looks like.
Yeah, so for example, you grow up not really having validation, right? You seek kind of validation from others. Some of us might have experienced this with our parents. And so, especially like in Latinx community or in the Latinx culture, we have like the matriarch or the patriarch of the family, right? The goal is to always kind of keep the family as a whole and as a unit. One child wants to leave the household, they will manipulate that child to bring them back and not shake the homeostasis of the house. So they don't like that you're now rupturing this peace that we have by you leaving or you rebelling, having a boyfriend, going and having sex before marriage, whatever the case may be, right? So they become overly dependent of you, saying, hey, like, well, if you leave, what are we gonna do without you? Or, we need you so that you can be here for your mom or for your grandma, right? Filling into that manipulation and just becoming so overly dependent that if you leave, like this whole house is going to be chaotic, right? And that's just one situation. It also kind of just depends, right? Domestic violence as well, right? Having maybe a mother be stuck in a relationship like that and just being like too overly dependent of the child to kind of have an escape, or keeping that child from staying because, they don't want to be alone with that violence going on in the household. I don't know if that kind of clears it up, but it kind of usually depends on like the situation where parents are very enmeshed. And enmeshed, I mean, if there's a lot of like letting your parents into your problems and your problems and your parents into their problems, saying like, let's say a mother starts complaining to their child about their father and the arguments they have, and they start kind of bonding over that, we become enmeshed now. It's no longer like the mom and the dad. Now it's the mom, dad, and the child enmeshed into this relationship, and it can cause a lot of trouble or animosity, right? Stephanie, yes, I believe you have your hand up.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to get a quick bite to eat. So going with that, and you may talk about it later. So if you are going to talk about it later, then you can just let me know. But with what you were just explaining, you're hitting my mom to the T, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are some things that you recommend for your clients that may be struggling with that bond, or with clients that are struggling to get away from that kind of embellishment, so to speak, right? So trying to get away from their mom being so manipulative, and how to respond appropriately to when a mother, father, family member, friend is being in that manipulative state and wants you to feel like the victim in that, hey, what am I going to do without you if you're not here? Like, I need you. You can't go and do this, this, and this. So two different scenarios, right? So maybe a client that is the manipulator, what would you typically recommend for them? And then in the other scenario, the one that's being manipulated, what would you say for them?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question you have there, because I do a lot of family work too. And we can see a lot of this in family work where the parents doing this and they're having struggles, seeing how they're causing more trouble for their kids, right? Who's the client? For example, I always tell clients we are not in control of what other people do and other people act. Once you can truly have a grasp on that understanding of what that means, then you can slowly start working through that guilt, because a lot of this whole manipulation is feeling that guilt, that fear, right? Fear is such a huge emotion that can really consume us and stop us from doing things we want in life, unfortunately. And I say that because I still experience that now, full disclosure. So one thing I always tell, my clients is we are not in control of other people's feelings, their behaviors, or the way they might respond to us. We are only in control of our own feelings and behaviors. Once we can work through that and truly understand that, your parents triggering you will start to decrease little by little, but it's constantly having to talk yourself through it, right? Checking what's going on, knowing, okay, they're trying to manipulate me again. They're trying to get a reaction out of me. I'm going to ignore them, be the bigger person, because they're just trying to get mad. And not giving them a reaction might piss them off even more, but I'm doing this for my own sanity and my peace. And then for the parent, right? A lot of psychoeducation, having to educate them, what's the reason that you're doing this? Like, what do you gain out of this experience with manipulating your child or wanting them to stay at home? Like, don't you want them to have like a future and go off to do great things, right? And so really just educating them about how their words can later on go to affect their children, unfortunately. And yes, I understand for parents who just want to have their kids, I get it. Everyone kind of wants to keep their children close and safe, but at some point we do recognize we have to let them make their mistakes. And although, we've been through our own trauma and we want to protect our children because we're afraid that they will go through the same thing, we go into that whole fortune telling, that CBT stuff that we talked about last time, right? Predicting the future, catastrophizing when we don't truly know. We're not mind readers, we're not fortune tellers, we do not know. So again, it goes into that psychoeducation and trying to reduce some of that anxiety that's happening for the client and for their parents as well. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to having just heightened levels of anxiety, right? I don't know if that answered your question, if you want me to go into more depth about that.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Of course. Let me check the chat. Is any? Okay. Chris said, so much in your explanation. I got my first job, get my entire paycheck every day, paid to my mom for bills. Yeah, see, it's that manipulation of, okay, I got to help out my parents, right? Gabriel said this may be off topic, but the question that came to mind is, how do you deal with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, nail biting, cracking hands, etc.? That one's a little bit tougher because it kind of does deal more into like maybe seeking therapy. A lot of the times is recognizing the pattern of behavior that you're doing. So always being aware, right, of what's going on. Once you have great awareness and mindfulness to what your body is trying to tell you, you'll be just more in tune with what's coming up. So if you're noticing it's like OCD, you're nail biting, right? That could be anxiety that's coming up for you. Checking in with yourself, asking yourself, what's coming up with me? What's triggering me right now? How can I take the moment to be present in what's happening right now and listening to your body? Because you might not recognize it, but your body at the end of the day is going to let you know, hey, something's up. We're not feeling good right now. You need to take a moment, take a breather. And it's okay to, use your coping skill, go on a walk, take deep breaths, get a cold pack of ice and like kind of press it against your body. There's many, many different coping skills that you can use and that work differently for everyone. Gabriel, I don't know if that really answered your question, but I hope it did. If it's like more intense with the OCD, it's always good to maybe continue coming to these conversations and maybe talking a little bit more about this. So going on with the multi-generational transmission process, combination of parents actively shaping the development of their offspring, right? Their children. Offspring innately respond to their parents' moods, their attitudes, and their actions, and long dependency period of human offspring results in people's developing levels of differentiation, similar to their parents. So who here maybe, again, I said, grew up in a chaotic household, you were used to a chaotic household, or you were kind of used to just your mom or your dad always being pissed off. So then you were just easily agitated knowing that they're going to come home mad at you. You can go ahead and drop that in the chat. Yes. And you're welcome, yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. And I just want to say thank you all for sharing this, because it's not easy to be able to have vulnerability. A lot of us didn't grow up being able to share our feelings and having that vulnerability. So just even being able to talk about this right now opens up a door to say, hey, you know, I've experienced these kinds of things, and I know now as an adult, I want to change that, or this is not okay. Louise has said, I always felt like I was walking on eggshells with my mom, even now. Yeah, exactly. That's the unfortunate part, right? And that's why we want to, you know, eventually for our future children, or just those who are not planning to have children, because that's okay too. Maybe nieces and nephews or other children that you see in the future, just seeing how we can give them a voice, right? How we can check in with ourselves and not project our attitude onto these children who are like sponges and grasping onto everything. A lot of the times too, we feel that, you know, even when women are pregnant, that the fetus doesn't feel anything that's happening in that development. It's actually, you know, there's a lot of good research that shows that even trauma starts off very young when you're in the womb. And for those, it might be like mom saying, hey, I was just really anxious throughout pregnancy, and you end up having a colicky baby, or, you know, just really like depressed during pregnancy. And how can that later affect the baby as well, or their upbringing? So we could see that a lot too. In relationship patterns of a nuclear family, emotional systems often result in at least one member of a sibling group developing a little more sense of self, and another member developing a little less sense of self. Who here, I'm sure a lot of you have siblings, but can like talk to your siblings and say, well, hey, your experience is a little bit different than mine. Mom was super nice to you, but I remember she was like super mean to me, or you know what, that's not how I remember it happened. Who here, drop it in the box, can tell me like, you know, my siblings, we experience things very differently. Yes. Definitely. Yeah, grew up in the same household, but had different parents for sure. Yeah. This even goes for like half siblings too, right? Or for step siblings as well. Yes, Phoebe says, especially when it comes down to girls versus boys. Chris says, my sister was extremely the favorite, and she can admit it now. I've learned not to blame her. It wasn't her fault. That's on my mom. Yeah, exactly. And you know, a lot of this breaking generational cycles, it also leads back to possibly forgiving your parents for raising you the best way they thought they could, or, you know, saying, I can love you from afar and we don't have to have this relationship because you genuinely damaged me, right? Yeah, at least at some point, one sibling will be more differentiated than the other. One will have like be the rebellious one who speaks up and, you know, talks back or says something or stands up for themselves. And then we have the anxious child, the one that stays behind, stays quiet, can probably be the scapegoat. So although we grow up in the same household, our siblings pretty much experience things differently. That's the interesting part of how our brains work. People predictably select mates with levels of differentiation of self that match their own. So this is an interesting part, right? If you are a codependent person and need someone to help you with making decisions, you're going to look for a partner that also has the same level of differentiation with yourself, because you both can be codependent of one another and help each other make choices. If you both don't know how to make choices, then you'll probably be with the partner who also doesn't know how to maybe communicate, express feelings. And then we have those partners who actually do a really good job, know how to express emotions, know when to give each other breaks, know how to properly communicate what's going on for them. So I don't know if anyone here can say, yeah, you know what, I've had an experience with my partner where I noticed we were kind of the same and it wasn't always compatible, or an ex-partner, whatever the case might be. I'm going to go ahead and read the chat. Mom was more lenient with my brothers in comparison to my sister and myself. Unfortunately, yeah, we see it a lot with males. Chris says, yep, I've had to learn that as third generation, the same cult. I had to learn to blame brainwashing for a lot of my mom's actions. Yeah. As first generation immigrant, I always thought I was the test bunny, but maybe I was being dramatic. No, and it's actually true. And for those who are oldest siblings too, unfortunately, this is the hard part, right? Because our parents grow up not really knowing how to parent, and they parent their best way. And unfortunately, you know, that first child ends up being kind of that test child. And then the youngest sometimes can end up being the one that's spoiled and has just everything they want. So yeah, everyone's experience growing up may look a little differently. And then finally, we go into family projection process, better known as the form in which our parents projected their emotional distress onto the children. It's how you teach your children to process an emotional distress. If you grew up having a grandmother who told you no sex before marriage, your mother probably grew up saying, okay, well, no sex before marriage, it's a sin. You know, you have to be this idealistic way of dressing and, you know, following the rules or following religion, and, you know, no sex before marriage. And that brings on the pressure and the anxiety to pass that down onto your children. Or it could even be projecting, oh, we hate men, right? That's projected down onto the daughter, who's going to go on and think, oh, well, we hate men, projected onto their younger children. I don't know if anyone here can just quickly drop in the chat or unmute themselves to say, hey, I've had an experience where, yeah, that's my grandma said that, my mom said that, you know, or my grandpa said that to my dad, said that to myself, and it's been passed down through the generations that this is how things have to be.
My mom would definitely use my father, so he's not in the picture. So she would always say like, todos los hombres son una mierda, mira tu papá que nunca te cuidó, which means in English, for those of you that don't speak, so I apologize, I'll translate. My mom would basically diss my dad in a sense, just by saying like, your dad's a piece of shit, he didn't take care of you. Yeah. Other men aren't going to, you know, take care of you or family if you have one, if and when you have one, essentially.
Yeah, so true. And that's a unfortunate but perfect example of what this family projection process might be. Because in step, you might be like, okay, well, in the future, when you were looking for a partner, you're a husband now, or whatever the case may be, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, is this man going to hurt me? Is he going to leave me? It leads back to our upbringing and what was kind of ingrained in our brains, like so early on. This can even be like, for example, our body image, saying, hey, you know, like we have to be under a certain weight and look a certain kind of way. Or even just that, you know, racism between cultures. You're not, you know, Latino enough. You know, your darker skin complexion, or, you know, you don't look like this way. And it's passed down that this is what a Latino should look like, or this is what like an individual person should look like, right? And you pass that down to the generations, maybe sometimes even having trouble to accept yourself as well. And then we have hyperatentive parenting. In part, it's a response to anxiety in a family system that impacts a successful transition to adulthood, and how this anxiety can be treated using a family approach. Hyperatentive parenting almost kind of reminds me of that helicopter parenting. Who here has had that experience, or can say like, hey, I've had that happen to me, or I knew someone who that happened to? Yes. Yes, I'm like reading back to everyone's our comments. Calls my daughter's father l'inútil. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Even now, my mom says I need to lose weight. Yeah. If I want to get a partner, that's the unfortunate part. You know, it really disheartens me to hear some of these experiences, because we know now, you know, that's not how we treat other people. As a teacher, I see so much helicopter parenting. Yeah. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of it has to go back to their own trauma. You know, what experiences have these parents lived through? A huge fear of parents nowadays too is, you know, school shootings, and how that can be, you know, processed onto their children. Or another fear is, you know, sexual assault with their children, right? And so even that trauma, if that happened to you and you don't work through solving those problems and those issues, can very much be passed down to your children. Helicopter parent from Norma. Yes. Oh my gosh. It's the ones where they kind of just are over you, don't let you do anything, right? It's like a response of anxiety, not having control, which a lot of times we're going to realize our parents act this way when they feel like they don't have control. And last bullet point here, parents not learned how to model appropriate communication, coping of feelings, or processing of emotions, right? That's the projection process. If we don't know how to communicate, future generations aren't going to learn how to. If we don't know how to use coping skills or know how to cope with feelings, and we just kind of brush off our tears, crying is, you know, for the weak, we will teach our children the same way that we don't cry. Who here grew up hearing crying is a sign of weakness? Especially for men too. Oh my gosh. You know, we hear this a lot from males, unfortunately.
You know, what's so interesting is that my grandmother was very much so like this. And my mom, even being the way she was, because her mom taught her that so in depth, I guess, and just tried to engrave it, my mom refused to believe it. So she was very emotional. Of course, that has to deal with her diagnosis too. But I think it goes to show too how resistance in some generations, like my grandmother being very much like, I know you can't cry, like that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? That's weakness, right? And then my mom's like, no, like it's okay to cry. And then it's just seeing that difference too in just a short span of generations.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. It's like invalidating, it's shutting down, it's, you know, that control of, hey, you crying is making me feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to tell you to stop because we don't do that. I don't know how to process that. And sometimes here, and I'll admit that, you know, growing up, when someone was crying, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with that. You know, I'd be like, it's okay. But, you know, genuinely, it was not okay. We know now you got to let a person cry and let those feelings out. And yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, it's so uncomfortable for us that we will shut it down because we don't know how to handle that. I'm going to read back to the comments. Lisa said, I barely, if ever, saw my mom cry or express emotion. Yeah, through crying. So I naturally just never wanted to show my own emotions or show her my emotions. Gia says, I would finally challenge them a lot and ask, but why? And they would say, you can never be wrong. Or why do you need an explanation? Yes. Oh my gosh, I hear that so much. Like, this is it and that's it. Don't ask any more questions, right? Lisa said, never felt safe expressing my emotions to her because I was scared of her judgment. Yes. Oh my gosh, I see that a lot. As I'm unlike her, I'm very emotional. Yes. It's so interesting because we go on to think that this is okay. And a lot of the times, even in expressing our feelings, when we feel judged, we go into shutting down what we're used to, right? And this happens with our partners. This happens with like potential like boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever the case may be, husband, wives, with our children. We just shut down because I grew up being shut down from my parents, and this is why I know, and I'm just gonna retreat. You know, I'm trying to express myself to you, but it's not working. You're judging me, and I'm gonna shut down. And that can even mean just shutting down, like talking, not wanting to look at someone, body language, you know, start crossing your arms, start looking away. Ever been in a car fighting with your partner and you just start looking out the window, kind of like the dog that just looks out the window? That was me sometimes. I just have to say that. I'm going to go back to the chat real quickly, and I just have a few points and I'll finish up. Yes, suppressed a lot of feelings. Tend to hold back a lot, which I was very much feel like is a lot of why I'm single. I don't want to be seen as over emotional. And see, that's okay. That's totally fine. It's okay to be emotional. The right person is who's also differentiated or is willing to learn this process will say feelings are fine, right? You're not sensitive. You were just taught that this isn't okay when it is. Break my whole neck looking away. I used to do the same thing. I'd like turn to my whole body, like just look away. And Nyla said, my mom is very emotional, but my dad is the exact opposite. I've never seen or heard him apologize or show any type of emotion. Yes. Oh my gosh. Full disclosure. Same thing with my dad. He does not apologize. He will come bring you food as a peace offering. And we never heard an apology. So growing up, I didn't apologize until now. I know now you have to apologize. Okay. Just wrapping it up. Just some few like tips. You always want to introduce your clients or yourselves to coping skills, right? We can do deep breathing. We can listen to music. We can go on walks. We can grab like a cold bag of ice, like I mentioned. We can be in touch with our five senses. We always want to help clients, or here in this case, help everyone have a higher sense of self, have autonomy, know you have a voice. Bowen is an expert at this. He called this the togetherness force of the family, breaking away from that anxiety and that fear that you're going against what your family's telling you. You want to differentiate from your family of origin, which is your current family now, or if that's even with your partner and your children now, and teach healthier processing of feelings through communication, It's huge. Like you really just want to learn. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to work. Use your I statements. If you don't know what I statements are, definitely follow me on my Instagram and I can show you a little bit about that or send you something maybe the next time. Most importantly, the goals will always be to increase differentiation, educate the person, and reduce emotional reactivity. So you want to just reduce some of that anxiety. I'm going to go back to the chat real quick. Let's see. Mama just pretends like nothing ever happened. Oh, it's an unfortunate part. Same. My dad would say sorry. It was not genuine. My mom would ask, see if I was sorry, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. See, that's manipulation. Call it ostrich symptom. I had my head in the sand. Yep. I like that. I'm probably going to use that. My mom does the same. Yeah. So again, like I said, thank you all for being able to kind of, agree or just like share some of your experiences. It takes a lot of strength and vulnerability to be able to even talk about this. So just you doing it now is huge. It's showing that you have the potential, you do have the voice, you do have autonomy, and you can break that cycle. You can break away from the fear, the anxiety, the guilt that has been instilled with us, and know that we're not going to pass this down further. We're going to work on ourselves. And it is an ongoing process. So if there's anything that I want you all to take into mind today, it's be gentle with yourself, give yourself that love that you so much deserve, and know that this is a journey. It is a continuous journey. Any other questions for me or any comments?
That was amazing. Wow.
Sorry, I spoke so much. I'm like, dry mouth.
No, it was good. It was good. I love it. Drop some hearts in the chat box for Amber. I learned so much, and that's amazing. Amber, thank you so much for sharing that information. And yeah, guys, you guys can apply these techniques, and you guys you gotta change yourself and lead yourself before you lead others, and inspire your family to do the same with this. Being able to, when you gotta heal yourself from all these, bad behaviors, patterns, so that way changes can happen within you, and then your family and those loved ones will see you differently, and just gotta lead the way, gotta lead by example, and just do your best every single day, be gentle with yourself, just like Amber said, be gentle, and just love yourself. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, guys. But as long as we have this community, right? We have together. Feel free to reach out to Steph, to Amber. We're all in the same, in the chat. And I also dropped her Instagram, so go follow her, show some love, message her if you guys need any guidance, any assistance. But Amber, thank you so much again. And Stephanie, you can drop the link of the Telegram for those that don't are not part of the community or the Telegram chat. We actually have a Telegram chat. Just download Telegram on your phone. It's a chat. It's an online. It's the application where you get to send messages directly. And you'll be part of a chat of a community. This community here. So yeah, Stephanie, you can just drop that link so that way they can join. And we'll drop some resources there, upcoming calls, and we're gonna be doing this every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks we host these sessions, and we're gonna be doing a lot more of these calls, Amber. So yeah, I just want to express my gratitude to you, and yeah, Steph, you have any words?
Absolutely. I went ahead and I dropped the Telegram chat. So for those of you that want to get more information, so what we do is we sometimes hold like little games and we interact with each other. So that's a little bit on the Telegram chat. I will also be posting the recording from tonight on there in case if you want to revisit or something pops up and you want to kind of go back to what Amber was talking about. I also want to say just a huge thank you to Amber. This was so informative and educational for myself, and I definitely feel like I can use this with my clients and just look more into it. It's something that I personally have struggled with so much my whole entire life with my mom. And just understanding that some of the reactions that I have to certain things isn't necessarily things that are my personality, but things that have been built because of my generational, how I've been raised, how my mom has engraved certain things. Like, for instance, men, right? That was the prime example, where she always would project her feelings about men onto me. And I've always had intense trust issues to this day, even with my own husband, with men. And it stems not from me, which I've always thought is like, oh, it's me, it must be me. Like, what am I doing wrong? It's definitely more of a generational thing, and understanding that we can help our parents see this as well and heal within ourselves, understand what the pattern might be, what the trigger might be. Taking a step back and really reflecting is just so powerful. And of course, it takes time. It's a journey. They don't call it you're healed from one day to the next for no reason, right? It is a journey. It takes time. And if you all, want to see a therapist, I highly encourage you all to talk to your primary care facility, and just talk to them, see if you can get a referral, or if you know a place where you want to go, getting in to see someone and talk to them, because it can really help you sort out through these things if it's not as apparent to you. For some other people that might be on the comment and chat box talking about their experiences, they may already be seeing someone and have already gone through these things. So I don't want you to be discouraged and like, okay, why am I not understanding X, Y, and Z? You can always ask for help from someone. So really reaching out to other people, whether it's a therapist or friends, family. And that's what our chat is also meant for. So you guys can comment on there, ask for questions if you need help with something, if you're struggling one day and you really just need some help. That's what it's meant for. And Amber, again, just thank you so much. You just shine so much light and such beautiful information that I think will truly help each and every one of us. And I just appreciate you for taking the time to do this, because I know we're all busy, and especially with school and work and internship. So I appreciate you.
Thank you again so much. Just to Carlos and Stephanie, I truly appreciate this opportunity in this space to really, like I said, share something that is so close and dear to my heart. Something that I love, and I feel that everyone needs to learn about. And just for everyone here, taking time out of your days, whether you're here in California right now, or if you're Texas or North Carolina or wherever else you may be, I send you all lots of love. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, it's Amber Castro MFT. It's all one word. If y'all ever want to just check in for a quick few minutes, we can go ahead and do that. Or if you need a resource, like within what state you live in, let me know, and I can also send you a resource if you need that, because we have plenty of resources to give. And it's also resources that are affordable, because I know a lot of times therapy is not, genuinely affordable.
Absolutely. Wow. One more time, drop some hearts in the chat box for Amber. You did it was a powerful call. And we're going to be doing more of this, guys. So stay tuned and join the chat if you haven't. Spread the word, share it to your loved ones, anybody that needs this information. All right. Copy and paste the link and send it to somebody, because there's a lot of people out there that are just struggling, guys, and that need this, right? That need this community, that need to be surrounded with like-minded individuals such as us, right? It's just I'm just so happy and grateful that I get to be here with you guys and have these calls on a bi-weekly basis. But now we're thinking about doing it every week now. So like me and Steph, we're gonna be coming up with a YouTube channel and opening up an online store, doing like clothes, like t-shirts, right? Mindset the New Wealth. So a lot of great things are going to be happening. I see the vision with this community. I want to reach hundreds upon hundreds of individuals. So, supporting mental health and just spreading awareness, right, in this subject here, because it's just what we really need as individuals. Because if we want to go after that career or get involved in business or trading or whatever it is that you have going on in your life right now, it all starts in mind how your mental health is right now before you go attack that task, right? So it's very important that you guys become aware with your mental health and how you're feeling, where you are right now, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and get educated, with the value that we're going to be going over here and dropping, and in being shared in the community. So yeah, it's definitely, if you have any words, any last words, because
Yeah, no, it's just, again, thank you so much, Amber. I hope that everyone was able to really enjoy this and gain some information. And I saw in the comments BB writing about a Facebook page. I'll definitely, we'll talk to Carlos and we'll brainstorm, come up with ideas about that. That's a great idea. We do have the Telegram chat. So I know I'll talk to you at work, because I know BB, you were having issues with downloading the Telegram app. But again, just thank you for this call. And I am just really, I feel just really warm, just so it's nice to hear all these different stories and seeing how vulnerable you all are, and really taking the time, because you may have disclosed more than you intended to. So really also being mindful of that and taking the time to kind of, if you feel overwhelmed or, triggered at all, understanding that that's okay, but please reach out to one of us, because again, you may have just started to talk about it and opened up a little bit more than you, had intended to. So just understanding that your feelings are valid. So just taking a mental check, seeing how you feel, doing a body scan, and then, hi, Chris. And then, really just seeing how you feel and understanding that it's okay if you feel overwhelmed after disclosing this information that you did with us.
Yeah, exactly. So I know it's the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. I know some of us are exhausted because of it's the middle of the week, is because of work and everything going on. But this